back, True Seeker. I'm going to make a how-to Gematria video for Tony Tell It Like It Is. I was notified that he is trying to, attack me for my sports predictions. I want to set the record straight for Tony Tell It Like It Is. And for people who follow him, I want you to know that I've always been nice to this person. I even have their YouTube channel linked at my blog. And I've done that out of a courtesy to him, giving him the benefit of the doubt that he is not a shill. Because I've been suspicious of this man since the moment he arrived here. But Tony Tell It Like It Is YouTube channel, linked on my blog, always has been. I link all the people who do Gematria work. But anyway, I've been really nice to him. I've tried to teach him. I got annoyed with him after this past World Series, and I asked him to retire from doing this. And the reason why is because I'm sick of him telling people that are going with my picks that they're retarded or they're stupid, and he guarantees his picks right, and it's wrong, and it keeps happening. And I realize he's younger, so I've let him go, and I've been like, okay, I'm just going to let him do his thing. But really, for him to keep belittling people who follow my picks when my picks have a history of being right and his have a history of being wrong, this is just ridiculous. And I'm going to remind everybody where Tony Tell It Like It Is came from. USA Today wrote an article about me during the playoffs of the year of Super Bowl 50. And around the same time as this article came out was the same time Tony Tell It Like It Is showed up. And what I had done that season is in October, way before the Super Bowl was played, way before the playoffs were set, I explained why it was going to be Broncos over Panthers, and along the way I showed why it made sense with Cam Newton and Von Miller's draft history for Von Miller to be the MVP, why there would be a Black Panther tribute. Von Miller wears 58, Huey P. Newton equals 58, so does Oakland, so does Freemasonry, so does Secret Society. Cam Newton, if he started in the Super Bowl against Peyton Manning, who'd already been in Super Bowls, he would become the 58th starting quarterback all time. I was teaching about this stuff that season and why it made so much sense for this Broncos versus Black Panther, Huey P. Newton started the Black Panther Party. You got Cam Newton on the Panthers wearing this helmet. I was showing how all of this stuff connected and why it made so much sense for the Super Bowl. And it all ended up happening. And along the way, USA Today made fun of me. And the other thing that happened was Tony Tell It Like It Is showed up out of nowhere. And from the day he showed up, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know to think he was a young college student who found this work and sincerely wanted to help, or if he was this thing created to make fun of me and make Gematria look stupid. And Tony, look, and I'm not trying to be fruity or anything here, but Tony, you're a handsome man, okay? I can tell that you're a nice-looking man. I don't know much else about you, but you wear these huge, thick glasses. And you talk in this voice that I can't decide if it's real or if it's an act for the camera. You talk in this real nasally, like stereotypical nerd voice. I have the mainstream media making me out to look like a geek. I'm getting trolled every day with 100 posts that say Gematria is for nerds, Gematria is for losers, Gematria is for people who never get laid. And now all of a sudden I got Tony Tell It Like It Is making Gematria videos telling everybody that I'm wrong. He's just targeting me. It's like, okay, I'm the one teaching this work and he's making videos saying that my playoff pick is wrong. It's going to be the Steelers and the Cardinals, which is what he picked again for the Super Bowl this year from the start of the season. So 2 of the last 3 years, he's picked Steelers and Cardinals. And when he came out of nowhere, he was doing Gematria, and he was showing how there was this narrative for the Steelers and Cardinals. But what he was doing was making up sentences and decoding those sentences and making that the reason for why it was going to be those teams. And I thought, this isn't what you do. What you do is you decode the actual things from the game and the stories that relate in the news and what's going on in media. Like how the weekend before Super Bowl 50, a new TV show came out about O.J. Simpson, and it started with this white Bronco chase. Football player O.J. Simpson, race war symbolism, white Bronco, white Broncos over Black Panthers. See, I've been teaching stuff like this. And Tony, who has learned from me, sometimes he interjects things that are... I've taken the time to watch some of Tony's videos. Sometimes he interjects something that's worth learning. But a lot of times he's just making up sentences. and saying that means this team's going to win. And it's just craziness. It makes this research look, nonsensical, which is what people are trying to say my work is. And it seems that since Tony's showing up, he's trying to make this work look nonsensical. So look, I want you to hear how Tony begins this attack video. And I've watched about 5 minutes of this, and I'm just going to respond to the first 5 minutes. I don't even know what goes on after. But I just want you to see what he says right here. Listen to this. This is such an absurd statement to make. It makes me think that I've been right about this guy, and he's just a plant in this community to make Gematria look dumb. He's one of the only people making Gematria videos, and he's probably the most active at it after me, which is not a good thing, But listen.
Of Dodgers over Astros in May. After all, you predicted the Washington Nationals to reach the World Series at the start of the year. That wasn't even close. I get it. You can't predict a World Series matchup far in advance like I did. You could never do that in your wildest dreams.
So I don't have to go to my wildest dreams. I mean, is this a serious statement? I've made 3 predictions at the World Series. The first was in spring training for the 111th, where everyone said I was out of my mind because I said why the New York Mets would be in the 111th World Series from spring training. And along the way, I documented it by decoding what was going on in games. The first no-hitter of the season the Mets were involved in, and numerous other things, tributes along the way. Not only did I call the Mets in the World Series from spring training of the 111th World Series. Understand, New York equals 111 using the alphabetic order. Special number to New York. September 11th happened on the day that left 111 days left in the year. But New York, Gematria 33. Remember what happened in this World Series. I said why it made sense for the Mets to get closed out November 1st, 11/1 in the 111th World Series. They lost the final game on 11-1. And remember who was on the mound? It was Matt Harvey, number 33. He had a complete game going. His 111th pitch was thrown to a batter who came up to the plate with a 111 batting average in the World Series, who drove in the first run. One run that led to the next runs, that won the game, that ended the Mets on the game that began 11-1 in the 111th World Series. Number 33, Matt Harvey, gave up that pitch. In case you're new to my work, I've always taught about the significance of 39. You'll remember that in that same World Series, the Mets won one game, and they won it 3-9. And not only did they win it 3-9, this is why it's a shame that my video channel was deleted. Before that game was played, I said I like the Mets to win with a score of 3-9. Because New York and NY in 39, huge number in the city. Even NYC's 39. New York was established on a date with 39 numerology. The first governor, George Clinton, was born in 1739. George is 39. Clinton alone is 39. You got MSG, Madison Square Garden, 39. You got Derek Fisher fired on the 39th day of the year. You got all these connections to 39 in New York throughout the world, throughout the history of sports. Every New York Super Bowl has been won in connection to 39. 4 of them by the G-Men, 39. Did I say so already? The United Nations is 39 floors tall there. This number's so huge in the history of New York. So anyway, that day before Game 3 was played, I believe that's the one that they won 3-9, all day, media, sports, emphasizing things about the World Series in phrases that summed to 39. I think even one of them was a parachute, if I remember right. It was. I remember specifically talking about that. But I was like, this is all tributes to 39. It's a huge New York number. You got to like them to win. And I didn't guarantee that they'd win 3-9, but I was like, look for this score. 3-9 would make a lot of sense today. And boom, that's what happened. And, I exposed so many things about that World Series. Dave Henderson died at age 57 days from the World Series. The name Henderson has Gematria 57. When you take into account the S exception, he played on the Mets or against the Mets in the World Series in history. But anyway, that was the 111th World Series. For the 112th World Series, I guaranteed the Chicago Cubs were going to win it. I guaranteed they'd win it in Game 7, and I said I liked them to do it on November 2nd, 11/2 for the 100. 12th World Series, and I guaranteed the Cubs were going to win it. Just like how the summer before I guaranteed that the Cavs were going to beat the Warriors in a rematch. It was just too clear, the narratives. Sometimes the narratives are a lot clearer than others. Anyway, what the big deal was this right here. Let me get rid of this cipher. It had been 108 years since the Cubs had won the World Series. In spring training, I said why the Cubs were going to break this 108-year drought. Had to do with Major League, the 108 double stitches, the word geometry. These are special numbers. The tallest building in Chicago is Sears Tower. But notice Major League's also 45. The Cubs hadn't been in the World Series since 45. You know, Wrigley 45. Illinois, the state, has this gematria of 45. I was just showing all this stuff. Just before that World Series, the mainstream media put out a crazy article about Chicago in 108. I showed that at the time. Chicago's history was like a million things of 108. It blew my mind. Remember, they create 108 game footballs, 108 for the Super Bowl. Not arbitrarily. Special number, geometry. Gematria is geometry and language. This number 108 is not coincidental. They say the diameter of the sun is 108 Earths. They say it's 108 suns from the sun to Earth. They say it's 108 moons from the moon to Earth. Special number. When you have multiple gematria that overlap, there's a word for that. Gematria. 45 and 108. Multiple ciphers have always been important to gematria. You know? This knowledge, it comes from the Bible, Holy Bible, 45 forwards and back. The knowledge in the Bible comes from Hermetic teachings, 45 forward and back. The 7 seals in Revelation. It's all Hermeticism. But anyway, taught a lot about the 112th World Series from spring training on. Got that right. I showed the riddles with the no-hitter again. That pitcher Arrieta from the Cubs, how it was all synced up. No-hitter 46. Chicago 46. If I remember right, Chicago Cubs is also 46. Arrieta got that no-hitter 46 days from his birthday, plus a whole lot else. I've been teaching people real knowledge to understand how to decode and see through scripted sports, Tony. I've been getting a lot of predictions right. You've been teaching bullshit off of what you learned from me. And I've asked you a lot of times to, stop doing the sentences and saying this means that and just stick to what is. And the whole time you haven't done that. And I understand you're your own man, but, there's not a lot of people teaching this and you haven't been doing the best job. But even still, I've given you the benefit of the doubt, linked you at my blog and elsewhere. Now look, Tony told in this video, we're not going to watch more, you can watch it yourself, but in more of this video, just ahead, he goes on to say that I haven't taught anybody anything about the New Orleans Saints this year, which is bullshit. Before week 1 was even played, I said look for the Saints to be a surprise team this year. New Orleans Saints has the gematria of 98. This is the 98th season of the NFL. I told Tony about this early in the year, why he needed to start using reverse gematria. I gave him the complete list of 98 teams. Remember, the teams that opened up the 98th season of the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs, 98, and the New England Patriots, 98. 98's huge with the Patriots. They got more connections than anyone. Patriots alone is 98. Tom Brady, 98. Became the starter at Michigan in 98. But anyway, I said, remember, at the beginning of the season, I said, look for the teams with the 98 connections. They're going to have special seasons. LA Rams, 98. Los Angeles Rams, 52. Super Bowl 52, 98th season. Anyway, what I pointed out about the Saints game the night of the opener is it was against the Vikings. And Vikings have 98 connection. They're hosting the Super Bowl this year. Minnesota also 52. I told people before the season began, look for a major flood narrative this year. Minnesota is land of 10,000 lakes, named after the ancient flooding from glaciers. Notice Minnesota's 52, just like flood, just like glaciers, all 52. New Orleans was hit on a date with 44 numerology by Katrina, and they went on to win Super Bowl 44. Notice Katrina's 52. So is Hurricane. So is Flood. I taught people at the beginning of this season there was a major riddle with the floods. Houston had the Super Bowl on 2/5 or 5/2. Flood 25 or 52. Tom Brady 25-point comeback became 5-2 on the appropriate date to conclude the 97th season of the NFL. 97, the 25th prime. They made the touchback 25 yards last year. Notice, I was saying, from the date of the Super Bowl to the date that Harvey hit Houston, that was 29 weeks. Harvey 29. Football 29. That week, the opening week, you remember what was going on? Houston was cleaning up, and then Florida got it, and Jacksonville got the worst. And Jacksonville and Houston played each other to start the season, the two most devastated cities from the most recent hurricane, which hit Houston on a date with 52 numerology. Jacksonville won over Houston with 29 points. And I said, remember this. This year's the flood. I was talking about all the teams that could be surprises this year. I said, I really like the Saints. Was documenting this. I said, keep this stuff in mind as the season goes on before a single game was played. And Tony's trying to say here that I didn't give people knowledge on the Saints. You know, first he lies about the World Series, and then he goes on to attack the football. And that reminds me, I have to talk about the last World Series that just happened, but we'll connect it. Because Tony's trying to diss my World Series pick. That's a mistake. My World Series pick was very good from spring training this year as well. I favored Houston in the American League, just like I favored them last year in spring training. Spring training, the year the Cubs won, I said I picked the Cubs to beat the Astros in spring training. You know? And I showed how at the end of the year, when the Astros were eliminated, it made the most sense for the Indians to lose to the Cubs, which is exactly what happened in Game 7 as predicted. This year, I like the Astros, and it is true I like the Nationals most in the National League, but I said if I was wrong about them, to look for the Cubs or the Dodgers again, just like I said I like that same trio of teams the year before. You know, Tony's picking the teams that I've decoded and been talking about, and now he's trying to slander my work, which is some real bullshit. You know, Tony doesn't really know the reason these teams are front runners. He's only learned what he has from me, and most of his picks are based in nonsense. But look, back to this football thing before we bring it full circle with the World Series. From the Houston Super Bowl to the Houston flooding was 29 weeks. Football 29, Harvey 29. You see what's going on here? The Super Bowl on a date that connect to the word flood. Houston was flooded on the 239th day of the year. That's the 52nd prime. The 52nd prime, it was also a date with 57 numerology. 8 plus 27 plus 17. August 27th, 2017. So, it was because of that flood that I called the World Series dead on from the beginning of September. At the end of August, after the flood, I said why the Astros were a lock to win the World Series. After LA had the fires at the beginning of September, I said why it made more sense probably for them to be in the National League than Nationals. I said don't write off the Nationals yet. They still got a major narrative. But the whole water and fire, flooding and burning thing made too much sense in light of the way sports are scripted with news. And both incidents lined up perfectly with the World Series. Case in point, Matt Harvey, the same pitcher used for the World Series, the 111th World Series, ritualistically. He became the first pitcher in Houston 52 days before the start of the World Series. Think about it. Harvey, after Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane 52, Flood 52, Houston flooded by the numbers. From the day he pitched to the start of the World Series was 52 days. I said, that's just too perfect. And on top of that, you know, my channel's been taken down, but people saw the video, they know it was there. I showed how the news, Fox News, on the same day that Harvey pitched, ran a news story about a woman whose house wasn't destroyed by the flood, and her quote was, I feel like I won the World Series. Talked all about 52. You know what? Let me show you something. Let me show you how relevant my work is. I told Tony all along the way. he called into my radio show and he kept talking about the Dodgers, and I said, you're doing great work with the decodes, but you better look at this. Water puts out fires, and the riddles going on with the Houston Astros. So anyway, here's Vice Sports. You know, USA Today made fun of me for Super Bowl 50. Vice Sports has now made fun of me for the World Series, the 113th World Series. Last summer, an Iowa paper made fun of me for showing how the rigged NBA Finals was, where I guaranteed the Cavs would beat the Warriors from the start of the season. But look at this. This guy, he writes this article making fun of what coincidence, 52. Same things I'm telling you here. All this mocking. You know, makes fun of my Joe Torre video, which became all the more true when they hired Aaron Boone. But he just makes fun of all this, ends it with 52. Here's something I've taught people. Decode the names of authors and articles and see how often the number they're writing about is the same number that's in the story. They got Sean Newell to make fun of me, 52 in the World Series, with 52. This is the same publication that in 1994 printed an article with Beavis and Butthead and cartoon planes flying into the World Trade Centers. Vice, which is now connected to HBO. But anyway, these are the things that I documented. These are the things that I told Tony. Tony was choosing to use narratives like the death of Vin Scully and, former retired Dodger players to create a narrative that the Dodgers were going to beat the Astros in this World Series. And he was guaranteeing they were going to do it and calling people who followed my work idiots. You know, he was wrong again. And it just happened so many times. And that's why I asked Tony to retire. I said, man, if you're going to keep insulting people and telling people if they don't follow you, they're dumb. I said, just retire, man. You're making this research look bad. Tony is notorious for guaranteeing things are going to happen and then deleting his video. That's not good either, you know? I have never deleted a video to date. Shills have said I delete videos. That just pisses me off. I have never deleted a video to date. Not a single one. One video I put on private. One video. And there's an article by the mainstream media written about that. Way before the season began, the year of Super Bowl 50, I didn't pick Broncos over Panthers until October that year. Before that season began, I saw that there was a major riddle going on with the Eagles. And I've explained, sometimes these riddles are for things to come in the future. They could be close. They could just be years away. But there's these riddles and they happen for a reason. Eagles having a special year this year. I guaranteed the Eagles would be 10-1 in week 3 this year. They became 10-1. But look, I wrote this article about why the Eagles had a shot. I made a video about it. Man, the Philadelphia fans or whoever, the trolling, that video would get like 50 negative comments a day, and I put up with it for months. Finally, one day I just set it to private. I was like, these people are all idiots. I mean, they think because you get one wrong read for the season, it means the work's all bunk when you've shown all these things that are impossible to deny. So anyway, only to date have put one video on private, and that video wasn't deleted. It was just on private. I think I actually did end up putting it back on public like months later when the trolling finally ended, because it was just ridiculous. It was like dominating every comment I got. And anyway, the point is, I have shown definitively how sports are scripted and taught people how to do it. Tony has not. Tony learned from me, and he hasn't made the best use of this knowledge. He's continued to do things that are ridiculous that I've asked him many times to stop and showed him why he should stop. I've also been asking Tony to teach reverse gematria with this cipher because I've shown him how relevant it is all along the way, such as what I was showing him with the World Series, such as what I was showing him at the beginning of the year where he's now saying, I haven't mentioned anything about these teams. If you don't use the reverse ciphers, you can't see narratives that are going on. Notice Gary Allen Anderson's 98. In 1998 with the Vikings, he had a perfect season. Perfect season. Until his missed field goal, crucial against the Falcons. Huge miss. Changed the Vikings' year. Here we are in the 98th season of the NFL. There's been these riddles with Blair Walsh and missed field goals while he was on the Vikings. He just ended his season with a missed field goal against the Cardinals which was perfectly synced up with all of his other missed field goals. And he missed it with the Seahawks. Remember, just the other year, Blair Walsh was a Viking playing the Seahawks in the playoffs and missed a 27-yarder, a chip shot, on a date with 27 numerology. He just missed his field goal with the Seahawks to close out the season. 103 weeks later to the day, that's the 27th prime. Blair Walsh, show you this real quick. You know, this is the difference between Tony's work and mine. My work, it's just based on the patterns in the games. It's stuff that you can go to. It's stuff that you can prove. It's historical record you can look at. I want you to see this. Blair Walsh's college team. He was a Georgia Bulldog. The Georgia Bulldogs just missed a crucial 27-yarder. Now it's going to be the SEC, All-SEC Championship. And notice, Georgia advanced with 54 points. Alabama won by 18. The game's on 1-8. See how this goes? Till next time, true seeker. Sorry, I had to answer the doorbell. But look at this. There's a little bit more I want to tell you about the Blair Walsh and Gary Anderson miss from 1998 in light of this being the 98th season and the Vikings hosting the Super Bowl. When Gary Anderson missed that kick that ended their season, it was a 38-yarder. Minnesota 38, US Bank 38. US Bank Stadium's 38. When he missed that kick, ended their season in Minnesota. And now there's these riddles going with Blair Walsh, who missed field goals by the numbers. When he missed against the Seahawks, when he missed against Seattle 2 years ago in the playoffs, Blair Walsh, it was a 19-yarder. And he just ended the Seahawks season with a missed field goal. It's part of this ongoing riddle. It's 19 years since Gary Anderson missed his field goal. He did that with Minnesota, who's hosting the Super Bowl. So they're telling us that there's some narrative to come. There's going to be a big miss in these playoffs, maybe a gimme that changes everything. And, there's a few different ways to look at where this narrative's going. I haven't done the full homework from here. We're going to have to measure from the kickers in the playoffs' birthdays to the games they play. We'll probably find something. But I'll be looking for the numbers 19, 38, 52, numbers that have to do with this playoff season. 98. So there's a riddle you can work on. Get in here, type in kicker names, measure from their birthdays to the date of their playoff games that are potential. You can get ahead of the code. You can theorize matchups in the week ahead and see if it's there. That's how you figure out the way the games are rigged, by putting in the time. It takes time. But anyway, 19-year riddle. When he missed against the Seahawks, the score was 10-9. 19 points. It was that 27-yarder on the date with 27 numerology like we talked about. This is how you decode sports. This is how you document history, and this is how you figure out the rigging. You can't make up sentences and dictate something. So look, down in his description, he writes this. His NFC teams so he's talking to me, his NFC teams at the start of the year in order for the NFC were Giants, Cowboys, and Seahawks. And he's writing that from before the season began. By week 3, I had really straightened things out in the NFC. He didn't talk about my AFC pick because I said it would be the Steelers or the Patriots from months before the season began. But with regards to the NFC, by week 3, I had predicted a lot of things right about the Eagles. Predicted their upset over the Panthers, and I predicted that Philadelphia would get to 10-1, and here's why. Philadelphia sums to 101, so does the word church, but you can only know this in the reverse ciphers. The Church of Philadelphia comes from the Bible. This is a biblical code. I've been telling all year that Tony needs to get on these things, and he continues to not show his viewers reverse gematria. It's funny that right after I began teaching reverse gematria, that's when all of my online accounts got hacked. Pretty soon that's when I was censored from YouTube on my 11th channel since June. I don't think they want people connecting the reverse because it's the whole other half side of the code. It shows you so much more. My work's been under a lot more scrutiny since then, and Tony is not teaching his viewers this. But I said Philadelphia would be 10-1. That's the 101st prime number. The 101's the 26th prime number. If the AFC wins the Super Bowl this year, it'll be their 26th all time. And Minneapolis equals 62. We could see Tom Brady become 6-2 in Super Bowls. We could see the Steelers enter, who are already 6-2. Both teams were 6-2 at home this year. Tom Brady just won the passing record for this season in the regular season by 62 yards over Phillip Rivers, who was second place. And also, Jimmy Garoppolo got sent to the 49ers. Talked about this the day it happened, on the day leaving 62 days left in the year. Played his Week 17 game 62 days later. If I can spell his last name right here. I always forget. But I'll know when the letters come up. No. His name. How do you spell it? Oh, Jimmy G, how do you spell your name? I know that it's funny that Jimmy G's 77. His full name is also 77 when you spell it right. I can't think how to spell his name. His name's too complicated. There it is. That's how you spell Jimmy G's name, and if you look it up, that's going to be right. That's something useful Gematria could be if you taught a child for a spelling test. If there's like a word they're having trouble remembering, just teach them how to reduce it or add it in one method, and then if the spelling and number adds up, that's probably the right way to spell it, you know? But Jimmy Garoppolo, 77, and by accident, I realized Jimmy G's 77 too. He got traded to the 49ers, 10 plus 30 plus 20 plus 17, date was 77 numerology. And what's cool about that is when you write out 77, it sums to 49. Just like how United States is 77, the 77th meridian is the American meridian, and Washington, 49. You know, 77, 49, 49ers he gets traded to. He goes 7-0 as a starter in week 17, 17 the 7th prime, 49 the square root of 7. But what else is cool is how this number connects to Super Bowl. The 49ers just hosted the golden anniversary, Super Bowl 49, NFL 49. See, Tony isn't connecting the other half of the code, so he's missing out. And Tony, you know, to say that I've never called the World Series wrong and then to go after my NFC picks because they weren't that great before the season began, it's weak, man, because I called a lot of things about the Eagles' season this year, called a lot of games correct. You know, I know that the night that you called the Chiefs and Raiders game wrong, I taught a lot of people a lesson because I taught the people that that game was all about the number 52 and it won on Derek Carr's 50-second pass. I mean, all throughout the year, I know that you've made the wrong picks. My primetime picks this year were 30 right and 2 wrong. You know, that's how I did on primetime games that I picked this year. Compare that with your record, which is in the negatives. You know, you didn't even go 50%. But look, here's what you missed out on because you're not paying attention to my work. On September 23rd, 23/9, a lot like 239, the 50-second prime, Donald Trump called out the players protesting. The U.S. flag was sewn at 239 Arch Street. So it became about the flag. Flag 26. Again, if the AFC wins the Super Bowl, it'll be their 26th. Philadelphia, known for the flag. Flag sewn at 239 Arch Street. The flag was 239 years old when Trump was selected president. He has the same birthday as the flag. So I said this year's all about the flag. Makes a lot of sense for Philadelphia to be in the Super Bowl, which is what I picked since week 3. And along the way, I've reminded about other narratives in case I'm wrong, including the death of Denny Green and how Minnesota could be the first team to represent in the Super Bowl, which I talked about last summer. Minnesota 52, Denny Green dead 52 days before the home opener, dead 155 days after his birthday, the day before they opened up the stadium to the fans that the game's at. U.S. Bank Stadium 155. So again, all along the way, I drop knowledge. I show people what I'm looking at. I leave it up to them to use their own mind a lot of the time. But I'll always tell you what I'm thinking and what's making the most sense to me. So anyway, we know 52 is the number this year. Minnesota 52, they're hosting. Getting this big flag tribute on September 23rd. That made me think of Philadelphia. And when you use Francis Bacon Gematria, which I think Tony does mention, that's where you take into account capitals, flag is 52. You know, saw Alshon Jeffrey this year get a $52 million contract 65 days before the Super Bowl. That doesn't mean they'll be in it for sure, but these are the types of things you look for. At the same time, I've seen rituals with the Steelers, Patriots, Eagles, and Minnesota the most as we've been documenting this season, and they're the top 4 seeds. And all 4 of them are 13-3. You know? Again, Danny Rooney died 98 days before his 85th birthday this offseason. That's the reason I've liked the Steelers if it's not the Patriots. He died on the 103rd day of the year. You know? Dying before his 85th birthday, before the Steelers' 85th season, as well as the Eagles' 85. National Football League 85, 85th season, dead before the 85th birthday, dead in the Keystone State, 85. You know, you can only see that in reverse. So, I also pointed out something at the end of week 14. Eagles won with 43. That's the 14th prime. In 43, the Steelers and Eagles joined teams. And notice, if you write out 14, let me get rid of Francis Bacon here, sums to 112. Steelers and Eagles had the best record at the end of week 14. They were both 11-2. You see? 43 is the 14th prime. Torn ACL was the narrative with Carson Wentz. Won with 43 points in week 14 against the LA Rams. The day after the whole ritual with Kobe Bryant and Fly Eagles Fly. But look, the point is, I've been trying to teach you, man. You decode what is. You show people the real narratives, how things are being scripted, where the code's coming from. Them having the 11-2 records after week 14, which connects to 43 of the years that they were merged, them both being in their 85th season. This stuff has meaning. This is stuff that people can verify and prove. When you write a sentence out to say that this means that, that's nonsense. That makes this look stupid. You know, for more than a year, I've been asking you to not do that. For a year now, I've been teaching you reverse gematria. You don't want to use it. Super Bowl, 112. We had Prince die on the 112th day of the year who performed in Super Bowl 41. You got to look at all these things. This isn't the easiest thing to do in the world, but if you look at enough narratives of a nuts dots line, you can make picks. I told you before this season began, there was no narrative for the Cardinals, you know, and you said that was going to be, they were going to be in the Super Bowl, you know. You didn't teach anything about the Saints. I was teaching about the Saints before week 1 even happened, okay? I said they could be a surprise team. But still, out of all the narratives, you know, the things I've been talking about, they're coming true. Tom Brady just won his week 17 game 26-6. AFC could get 26th Super Bowl. Tom Brady could get 6th. 6 has Gematria 52. The Super Bowl's on the 35th day of the year. Tom Brady 35. Had 35 attempts in that game with the Steelers. You know? This is called bullshit. Trying to say that I haven't called the World Series right when I have, and very well. 3 for 3, pretty much. Last year I gave the top field of teams that all made it. You know, and had it right from August. So, to deny what I've done with the World Series and then to just cherry pick where I was bad in my NFL picks this year, this is what the shills do. This is called dishonest argument, you know? So, this is a long response to Tony, and it's not really just to Tony. It's to everyone who watches my work, everyone who wants to criticize, you know? Here in the NBA, we have, what do we have today? We have, it's January 2nd, 2018. We have Isaiah Thomas making his debut with Cleveland. Notice Cleveland 78, 78th day of the season. He's a point guard. If the Cavs win tonight, it'll be their 53rd win all-time over the Trailblazers. And think about last year, how he scored 53 on his sister's 23rd birthday. Can only see this with the reverse. China Thomas, she died in Federal Way, Washington. Near where he grew up, he was a UW Husky. UW Huskies 53. You see? She would have turned 23 that day. 23-53. 53 points on what would have been her 23rd birthday. Showed Tony this summer as a reminder to teach that reverse gematria. He still doesn't want to teach it. Why is Tony not teaching reverse gematria, continuing to make bogus picks, and continuing to make them off sentences, and now trying to slander me, you know? My two NFC teams were the Cardinals and the Saints. I showed early in the year, again, because I was talking about the Saints, when Adrian Peterson went from the Saints to the Cardinals, how it was part of this Jesuit ritual. Tony learned all these things from me, you know? So, Tony, shameful. I even had to give you a thumbs down. Normally I don't even give people thumbs down when they're slandering, but, you know, this is just ridiculous, man. This is ridiculous. So, we'll leave it there, Truth Seeker. Till next time.